Hey guys, today was supposed to be the beginning of answers. 10 months after Jay Slater disappeared in Tenerife, his inquest finally opened at Preston Coroner's court. But by the end of the day, the hearing had been dramatically put on hold. Not because there wasn't evidence, but because those who know the most still aren't willing to come forward. Three of Jay's closest companions, Lucy Law, Brad Hargreaves, and Brandon Hodgson, were not in court today. The coroner's officer confirmed that police made multiple attempts to reach them. Lucy is believed to be on holiday and couldn't be served. Brad is reportedly abroad with his mother Rachel. Brandon, no contact at all. This hearing didn't sneak up on anyone. The inquest date has been known. The invitation to speak, expected. So if all three are absent on the very day their silence could break, the timing does not feel accidental. Let's start with Lucy. She was the last known person to speak to Jay. He phoned her that morning, told her he was lost, his leg was cut, he had no water, and 1% battery. She passed that on, and soon after, Jay was reported missing. But her version of events has always been hazy. She first said Jay went with friends, then said she didn't know them. For months, the public assumed Lucy was back in Los Cristianos the morning Jay disappeared, not in Moscow. But now that's over. Thanks to the Spanish court document which we submitted during the inquest lunch break, it's confirmed Lucy Law stayed at the Moscow property that morning, the very house Jay was in. She was there. That fact has never been disclosed in any interview, not in her GoFundMe posts, not on social media, not even in the early interview she gave, the one where she refused to show her face on camera. Just a voice, off-screen, no accountability, no cross-checks, no real answers. At the time, people gave her the benefit of the doubt. She might have been traumatized, in shock, not ready. But now it feels deliberate. She wouldn't face the camera then. She wouldn't face the coroner today, and she's never faced the public with the full truth. That's a pattern. Then there's Brad. Brad Hargreaves was with Jay at the festival, with Lucy, with the group. He gave one interview early with Isla Triquare, a controlled environment, pre-recorded, no follow-up, no transparency. Since then, nothing. No timeline, no public appeal, no comment. And now, no appearance at the inquest. And Brandon Hodgson? Also on the witness list. Also absent. But here's the difference. Brandon has never given any account at all. Not a single statement. Not to the media, not to the family, not to the public, not to the court. He was on that trip, in that circle. And he's never said a word. Let's take stock. Lucy. Public version contradicts her police statement, now confirmed by court document. Brad spoke early, then vanished. Brandon has never spoken at all. Josh Forshaw finally appeared today, but only after anonymously leaking a WhatsApp message that matched today's testimony. Ayub Kasim and Stephen Rockus, summoned but untraceable. The people who were with Jay, the only people who might truly know what happened, are either dodging, delaying, or hiding. And as for why, we can speculate. Fear, guilt, legal advice, loyalty to someone else. But what's clear is this: they were there, and they are not here. For Debbie Duncan, watching her son's case stall again because no one wants to speak, it's not just pain, it's abandonment. The court then turned to identification. Cheryl McGowan, a senior fingerprint expert, confirmed that Jay was identified by palm print, not fingerprints, not dental, not DNA. It was a palm print, matched against records already on file. And here's why. Jay had a prior conviction for an assault involving Tom Hilton. It was publicly reported. As part of that case, UK police would have taken his biometric data, including palm prints. That's how they identified him. Because the condition of the body left them no other option. Jay was found on July 15, 2024, exactly 29 days after he disappeared on June 17th. His body was recovered in a ravine near Moscow, badly decomposed. Dr. Richard Shepard, the Home Office pathologist, told the court there were extensive changes due to decomposition. There were changes due to the period of time he was lying in a hot environment, changes I would expect to see in that period of 28 days or thereabouts. He confirmed the injuries were consistent with a heavy fall from height, adding, "I have no doubt at all he would have been rendered immediately unconscious. death would have followed almost instantly. Depending on where the body was, some vegetation might have provided partial shade, but Masca is remote, hot, and exposed. With no water source, no protection, and 29 days of exposure, decomposition was severe. Jay was too far gone for visual ID. Only that palm print remained. Next came toxicology. Dr. Stephanie Martin, the Home Office toxicologist, gave evidence on what was found in Jay's system. UK tests detected MDMA, a cocaine metabolite, and alcohol, meaning Jay had taken ecstasy, likely consumed cocaine while drinking, and had been under the influence at or near the time of death. But that wasn't the full story. The Spanish toxicology report, carried out earlier before decomposition had fully set in, found something else: ketamine. The UK team didn't pick it up. Dr. Martin explained why 29 days in heat can break down certain substances, making them harder to detect. So the ketamine wasn't necessarily missed. It had likely just degraded by the time the UK post-mortem took place. And yet it matters, because ketamine changes everything. Dr. Martin said the MDMA was probably consumed within a day of death, which fits with the party atmosphere at NRG. But the ketamine showed signs of longer-term use, not a one-off. That opens the door to speculation. Because the combination of drugs in Jay's system was potent and dangerous. Ecstasy and alcohol, dehydrating, stimulating. Cocaine and alcohol increases cardiac strain and aggression. Ketamine, numbing, sedating, even paralyzing at high doses. This isn't just a recreational cocktail. It's a chemical shutdown waiting to happen. Especially for someone walking in the Tenerife heat, injured, alone, and with no phone signal. So the question isn't just what he took, it's who gave it to him. Was it shared freely? Was it encouraged? Or was something slipped in? We know from court that Josh Forshaw broke an ecstasy pill in half for Jay, but the ketamine? No source named. No one's claimed it, and the court wasn't told who else, if anyone, was using it. That silence is damning. Because ketamine doesn't just make you slow, it makes you vulnerable. It detaches you from pain, surroundings, even fear. Combine that with alcohol and MDMA, and Jay would have been sweaty, unsteady, and foggy. He was likely in no condition to walk for miles through mountains. Yet that's exactly what the narrative says he tried to do. Then came the messages. At 2:39 a.m., Jay sent a text. "They've got a marker on me." Street language, that means you're being watched, flagged, or set up. The reply? "You need to get home, lad. You're off your Barnet." Translation? You're off your head. Later, between 5:03 and 5:52 a.m., he sent another message. "Just took a 12,000-pound rollie off someone. Off to get 10 quid for it now." In court, Josh Forshaw said 10 quid was slang for 10,000 pounds. The coroner asked for evidence. Josh couldn't provide it. Then came the image. 2 knives tucked into Jay's waistband, captioned, "In case it kicks off." It paints a picture of paranoia, risk, instability, and not a single person from that circle has explained it. And here's where it clicks. Back on June 29th, an anonymous WhatsApp message was leaked on TikTok and then into Facebook groups. It described the Rolex, the knives, and Jay's mental state, nearly word for word what Josh confirmed in court. We analyzed the blurred name on that message. About a month ago, we thought, using font forensics, letter spacing, and visible curves, that it might say Joan. This was based on an earlier success we had identifying another obscured name as Nikki. But after retesting that same method, and then hearing Josh confirm every detail from that message in court today, it's clear. It wasn't Joan, it was Josh. Josh Forshaw wrote that message. He didn't submit it to police. He sent it to Debbie and then he dropped it anonymously into the public, and only admitted it today under oath. So the question isn't whether he wrote it. It's why he chose to say it behind a blurred name. Then came the phone data. DCI Rachel Higson, head of digital media investigations at Lancashire Police, confirmed that Jay's iPhone stopped recording at exactly 8:49 and 51 seconds on the morning of June 17th. In the 50 minutes before that, from 7:59 to 8:49, his phone recorded a lot of steps and inclines. Movement, elevation, a pattern of someone climbing, walking, pushing forward. And then nothing. No more steps, no pause, no final photo, no voice note, no emergency call, just silence. His last known location, based on that data, placed him right near the spot his body was eventually found. Deep in the Mosca terrain. Rugged, isolated, no shelter. We're told he made that journey alone, with no water, no working phone, and a chemical mix of MDMA, alcohol, and possibly ketamine in his system. And from his final phone call to Lucy Law, we know he said his leg was cut, which would have made movement even harder. But here's what wasn't shared. Details of Jay's messages, app activity, and other calls across WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram, or SMS were not disclosed during the inquest. No read receipts, no contact logs, no app metadata timeline, no mention of what was happening between 2 a.m. and 8:49 a.m., other than a handful of witness quotes. And that's critical, because this data, if properly reviewed, could tighten the timeline, clarify who he was talking to, and reveal whether those messages were incoming, outgoing, ignored, or deleted. Instead, we're left with silence and speculation. That's not just unlikely, that's inhumane. Physically, he shouldn't have made it that far. Medically, he shouldn't have been upright. Psychologically, he shouldn't have had the clarity to try. So when people say he was just disoriented or took a wrong turn, we need to ask, is that analysis? Or is that just a convenient explanation? Because no one wants to ask the harder questions. Because what the data shows is that something stopped at 8:49 a.m. And no one has explained what. Then came Signy Zokonden. The court heard from the Dutch search and rescue team Signy Zokonden, a specialist nonprofit group with decades of experience in recovering missing persons using highly trained scent dogs. They were brought in by Jay's family after the official search had been called off and were given items of Jay's clothing, provided by his mom, to help track his scent. Remarkably, their dogs successfully traced a continuous trail, starting from the Masca Airbnb, where Jay was last seen, and leading all the way to the ravine where his body was eventually discovered. That's not speculation. That's confirmed in the evidence. And it raises a critical question, because weeks earlier, the Unidad Sinologica de la Guardia Civil, the Spanish Civil Guard's elite canine unit from Madrid, had already searched that same area. They likely brought with them both live scent dogs and cadaver dogs, the latter trained specifically to detect human decomposition without needing a scent article. Yet, despite being deployed to the exact location where Jay's body was later found, they detected nothing. Why? The live scent dogs weren't given Jay's clothing to track his trail, a major procedural oversight. But cadaver dogs don't rely on scent items. They're trained to alert to the presence of death itself. So why didn't they? That's not just puzzling. It's critical. Because if Jay was already deceased in that ravine, the cadaver dogs missed a body. And if he wasn't there yet, then we're left asking the unthinkable. Where was he during that time? And why wasn't that question front and center at the inquest? Because here's the real scandal. None of this was properly scrutinized. No in-depth analysis of how the Spanish dogs were deployed. No examination of timing, search grids, wind patterns, or scent conditions. No accountability for why they failed, or how the Dutch team succeeded using the same basic terrain. This wasn't just an operational difference. It was the difference between failure and success. The Dutch team also described the terrain in detail. The first part of the walk from the Airbnb was passable, they said. But after a certain point, it became steep, dangerous, and completely exposed. They told the coroner, "You can't carry someone down there. It would be impossible." Which led to the logical assumption Jay must have walked. But they added something else, something that doesn't fit. There would be no reason to take that route unless you were heading for the sea. Jay wasn't heading to the sea. He was trying to get back to Los Cristianos. Or at least that's what he told Lucy. So why would he take a route that led in the opposite direction? One that even seasoned rescuers described as perilous. Was he running? Was he hiding? Was he trying to escape something? Or someone? And what exactly happened between his last phone call and 8:49 a.m. when the data just stopped? because we're told he walked into danger, but it's looking more and more like he was pushed into it by circumstance, by fear, or by someone else's hand. And then we reach the final part of the hearing, the one that mattered most. Ayub Kasim and Stephen Rakas, the two men who hosted Jay at the Airbnb in Moscow, were both formally summoned to appear. These weren't background names. They were with Jay in the final hours before he vanished. They were in the same house. They saw him leave, or claim they did. The court confirmed that the Metropolitan Police attempted to serve them multiple times, but they couldn't be found. No reply, no contact, no cooperation. Now let's be clear. Ayub Kasim is a convicted drug dealer involved in county lines operations, exploiting younger people to move drugs and profit off their risk. Stephen Rakas is known to have a history of supplying Class A substances, a man with prior links to trafficking high-grade narcotics. These aren't just two men who disappeared after a tragic accident. These are men with a documented history of drug involvement, men who partied with a 19-year-old the night before he was found dead on the side of a mountain. And now, they're gone, out of reach, not answering summons, not helping the investigation, not facing the family. That's not just frustrating. That's obstruction of truth, and it's a pattern we've seen in this case again and again. Then, something changed in the room. Debbie Duncan stood up. All day she had sat there, composed, dignified, absorbing every word, every contradiction, every red flag, every silence. She didn't interrupt. She didn't lash out. She listened. But when it came to the final moment, when it became clear that the men who were with her son were nowhere to be found, Debbie rose. And she spoke for every one of us who wants justice. We've read the statements, but we want these people in front of us. My son went on holiday and didn't come back. So there are questions we need to ask. Please. The room froze. Because this wasn't a plea, it was a call-out. She didn't cry for sympathy, she demanded accountability. She's not just Jay's mom. She, alongside Jay's dad Warren, stood as the only family in that courtroom fighting for the truth without ego, without spin, and without an agenda. When others hide, she shows up. When others go silent, she speaks. When the system stalls, she pushes forward. Debbie Duncan wants justice for Jay, just like the rest of us. And we believe Warren does too. The coroner paused, left the courtroom, returned after a short break, and Dr. James Adeli adjourned the inquest. His words were measured, but telling, "I will make another attempt to find them. I am not confident of success, but I will do what I can." But respectfully, is that really it? Because under the Coroners and Justice Act 2009, the coroner has the legal power to summon witnesses. And if those witnesses fail to attend without reasonable excuse, the matter can be referred to a magistrate's court or high court, where the consequences can include a fine, a warrant for arrest, or even contempt of court. So when 5 key individuals, Ayub Kasim, Stephen Rakas, Lucy Law, Brad Hargreaves, and Brandon Hodgson, ignore summonses, dodge police, go silent, or conveniently disappear during the inquest of a 19-year-old who ended up dead in a ravine. It's not just frustrating, it's obstructive, and in our opinion, the coroner should be doing more. He should be escalating non-compliance to the courts immediately, applying for enforcement orders or warrants where appropriate, engaging international cooperation if there's reason to believe any of them are overseas, and transparently communicating what steps are being taken, not just to the family, but to the public. Because this isn't a complex conspiracy. It's a simple failure to act on authority already granted by law. The family is in court. The public is paying attention. And the 5 people with the clearest insight into Jay's final hours are still missing in action. So if the system says, "I'll do what I can," then do it. Use the tools. Apply the pressure, serve the law. Because if even this can't be enforced, then what's the point of the process? Without action, this isn't justice. It's just performance. Jay Slater is dead. The official cause is a fall. But the events that led him to that cliff remain surrounded by known dealers, missing friends, and an unbroken chain of silence. Those who partied with him? Missing. Those who last saw him? Silent. And the people with the most to lose? Still hiding. But we are not done. Because Debbie Duncan stood in that courtroom and demanded the truth. Warren Slater stood by her, enduring the unbearable. Duncan and Wax have carried this case, even when they were attacked for doing so. Online, in public, by those who feared what they were uncovering. And we're with them, not for views, not for clout, but because the silence is not good enough. We are here because Jay deserves answers, because Debbie deserves closure, because Warren deserves justice, and because Zach deserves peace. They want this buried. They want us quiet, but we are still here. We are the pressure, the memory, the evidence they hope we forget. We stand with Duncan, with Wax, with Debbie, with Warren, with Zach, and with Jay. We are not backing down, we are not moving on, and we are not going away. We are Mark Smith. And we will get justice for Debbie, justice for Warren, justice for Zach, and justice for Jay. Thanks for watching, and as always, we look forward to reading your thoughts and opinions in the comments below.